Welcome back to the channel, Adventures Through Climate Change, with me, your host, Trevor. Yes, where we take an armchair approach and kind of educate ourselves and talk about things. We're basically a community. This channel is just, you could say react videos. I don't really like that. I like breakdown videos. I'm not really trying to monetize or make money off this. I've had plenty of other channels that's for. This is mainly to develop a community where we can talk about things. I can say stupid things and you can react to that as well. I appreciate your comments, your subscriptions, all that stuff. This is mainly to look at both sides, okay? Climate change extremists and climate change deniers, which I do fall closer to what you guys, what climate change, extremists define as deniers. I'm not really a denier. I believe the earth is changing. I believe we have a role in a lot of different things. I believe that what we do affects everything, because no matter what, you guys have heard of the butterfly effect. I don't really necessarily believe in the extreme of that, but I do think that almost everything you do affects things around you. That's just what happens, right? If I'm not here, there is no way that this remote right here is going to move, right? It's just not, unless somebody else comes in and does it, right? So of course we affect things around us. I'm not an idiot, I don't think it affects us the way I think that they're trying to take our money away affects us, right? So right now, what we have today is an actual debate. And I watched another one of these on a different channel, but this is Jubilee, climate change activists versus skeptics. Can they see eye to eye, middle ground? 3 years ago, it's a 15-minute video, so we'll get into it real quickly. I just want to say that I can't remember if I actually loaded that one or not, but we watched another debate. And it was like they put the dumbest people on the skeptics part, and like these actual people that hold higher positions. They happened to have a lot of money. It looked like on the activist part, and it was just I was just like, this is kind of stupid, but it was actually almost I don't know. So hopefully this is a better debate. I just want to hear level-headed people talk to each other, not down to each other, and let's get into it.
In the reference of landfills, okay, maybe you don't have to pay for it now, but in 20 years when they're full, you're still going to end up paying for it. So why push that responsibility onto someone else?
But don't you think the citizens have a right to decide if they want to go along with this?
I don't think that citizens have the right to be wasteful more than someone else.
It's not starting good. The other thing is, when you go to these things, they're like 3 to 4 hours of talking about it. I've heard multiple people on these type of things, 3 to 4 hours of debates and talking, and then they cut it down to this little bits of the information that they want you to know, instead of like a Joe Rogan atmosphere where you're 3 to 4 hours of talking and it's long, drawn out conversations, not edited really, just right there, for everybody to see, and make their own decision on. Anyways, I digress.
My name is Don. I'm a professor of geology and a professional climate scientist. Have published in the field for many years.
My name is Andrew. I studied environmental science policy and management. I'm a consultant that specializes in sustainable tourism.
My name is Natalie. I'm a local government consultant, and I believe that anthropogenic climate change is real.
My name is Michael. I'm the vice president of a nonprofit that concerns itself with the threats to Western civilization.
My name is Dr. James Enstrom. I'm a physicist and epidemiologist, and I'm passionate about scientific integrity.
My name is Keith Hardeen. I'm a constitutional rights activist, and I'm concerned about the future of the next generations.
May I please have my activists to the left and my skeptics to the right? I believe global warming should be our #1 concern.
GoDaddy is a partner that always puts you
We
first.
getting a commercial already?
Start today at
advertisement? That just shows
GoDaddy.com.
my age. I'm sorry. My kids are always like, ads. They're ads.
There's obviously a lot of issues that our politicians deal with and that as a society we can care about, but if our Earth is moving in a direction to where our species cannot survive, then homelessness, then all of the other issues that are out there are going to be irrelevant because we won't have a place to live.
I agree that there are many issues that are important at the local level, and we are not doing a great job with a lot of things. But things like extreme droughts and extreme heat waves and devastating hurricanes and tornadoes are going to make life harder on us no matter where we come from and no matter what our economic background.
Really, if you want to look at it as an issue of health, I don't see why everyone wouldn't be concerned and everyone wouldn't be participating in ways to reduce the impact of climate change or reverse global warming.
No matter what the United States does, it's not going to make an impact on the worldwide greenhouse gas emissions as long as China and other parts of the world are increasing the greenhouse emissions. It puts...
For the record, I don't agree with those type of arguments. I believe they're like straw mans because really, I don't like pollution and stuff. I can't stand litter. Like, it just drives me freaking nuts. I can't stand it, you lazy people, because I don't like when people are lazy, like, for no reason. I can't. It's a pet peeve. So I don't like the, well, they're not doing it, so we shouldn't do it. I don't like that. Like, everybody just do your part to make it at least inhabitable, you know? Where I argue is that how much change are we really having? Okay, we can measure CO2 and CO2 is increasing. At what point is that really terrible and negative, and what point is it okay and whatnot? Because the Earth is greener now than it was before, and now we're saying because it's going to get hot, because we're losing our like the ice, any ice that's left, all that stuff that we're going to have major issues, and that when these major issues are going to happen, that's the problem I have. This guy's argument, I don't like this.
The United States at an economic disadvantage when we try to transform our lives in the other countries, the greenhouse emissions.
I didn't know he was going into finance.
It puts the United States at an economic disadvantage when we try to transform our lives in the other countries, just simply ignore these efforts.
The United States seems to be the most held responsible for the global warming, for doing something about it. And that's what bothers me. You know, we have a constitution, and nobody ever considers that constitution the importance of protecting the natural rights of the individual. And I think global warming is an infringement on those rights. When I say global warming, at least the agenda of the political aspect of it.
I think it's time to change how we live. I really do, which we have seen how changing our habits, changing the resources that we use and what we pump into the air, and how we reversed that hole in the ozone. We've seen how it can change, and we can change it, but we're going to have to make changes.
Well, I don't believe that climate change is our biggest problem, because I don't believe that man has anything to do with it. Climate has changed since before man existed on the planet and will continue when man is gone.
As a professional climate scientist who's done this for 50 years, I'm afraid you're not correct. The climate evidence is very, very clear. And probably the clearest evidence of all comes from ancient records, where we can actually see what the planet was like before humans were involved. This is why climate scientists, 99% on almost every study of climate scientists, shows that we're as unanimous as the scientific community ever gets, and that this evidence is real, and that it's happening, and it's happening on every scale, from the ice caps to the ocean. Every place we look, we get the same answer.
No, I'm not a climate scientist, but I know a lot of them. And I've heard exactly the opposite argument made. Thousands of scientists, just in the United States, signed a letter saying man has little, if any, effect on climate. So
they're
that's
all
clearly,
climate scientists. That's the point.
Yes, they
No,
are.
actually doing climate research and publishing in it.
Yes, they are.
I don't believe
Yes,
it.
they are.
Okay, this is where we get back into the conspiracy of peer reviews. Okay, go down that rabbit hole if you're curious about it. I'm not gonna go. I don't want to spend too much time on it. But are peer reviews really that good, or are we an echo chamber for funding? You know, I'm just saying they were created for a reason, and it wasn't what you think it is.
I know people who have been affected by environmental regulations.
Yes. Jeez.
Wow, everybody agrees on this one.
I have a very good friend. He is a trucker. He was able to be successful and maintain a career for 40 years. He was stopped in that career because of claims that his diesel truck was killing people through the exhaust. There was a program in Los Angeles called the Clean Truck Program that basically put him out of work because he couldn't afford to buy a new truck. So this is the kind of environmental regulation that hurts real people, especially here in Southern California.
I'll say also that many of the people who own homes, they're not allowed to water their lawns. Why? Because of environmental regulation laws, which are suppressing, again, suppressing the natural right to use water.
It seems like an underlying issue with you guys is money, power, choice. And I grew up on a farm where there was a lot of regulation. Agriculture is very regulated. And then eventually there was this regulatory thing that came in called the Conservation Reserve Program, where we had to convert a part of our land to prairie. At the time, my dad was very angry because we lost money from that. But that conservation area also created a buffer between the farm fields and the water to capture eroding soils so that it didn't go into the water and decrease the water quality. So I think there's certain regulations that we need to look at more long-term, look at the bigger picture, and although we may be losing money now, we could be earning it greater in the future. We need to look at it a bigger picture.
I really like your point about the water and the regulation of water, because I can remember that from a few years ago. And the reason they put that regulation in was because the snowpack wasn't there for that year. It's not like it was a random year where the government just said, start charging people for water. It's because the effect of climate change, one of the aspects of it is that we are not seeing consistent seasons. And I completely agree with a regulation that limits the amount of water, amount of precious resource that we have to consumers.
A regulation a lot of us didn't like when the cost of gas went up here in California and we all had to have catalytic converters, but we've all agreed in this group that we're grateful that the air is clean like it wasn't when I was a kid. And we don't want those laws reversed because we'd be back to the smog we had when I was a kid. So those regulations may not have been great at the time, they may not have made people happy, but we've all learned to live with it, and now we're grateful.
I'd like to bring up my concern about China again. On some days, the pollution levels in China can be 10 to 50 times what they are here in Southern California. They simply assign their citizens to wear gas masks. And then they take the jobs, the manufacturing jobs that used to be in this area, have now gone to China.
I might be missing it, but are you saying that you would rather have that manufacturing be in California and that we all wear gas masks all the time? Because that regulation that we have here that makes it expensive to have manufacturing here is what keeps us safe. That is what makes it expensive.
I think you're misunderstanding me. You could bring manufacturing back, just like President Trump has done in various parts of the United States, by just making the economics work. So we can still keep the clean air, but we don't need to keep beating down. Now, some of the regulations now are more severe than they were 50 years ago. And what you need to do is talk to some of these businessmen that are faced with this on a day-to-day basis.
An eco-friendly lifestyle is expensive.
Yeah. We all know we're paying twice as much for gas as the rest of the country. I pay an enormous amount for energy in my little tiny one-bedroom condo. Wind and solar have been subsidized. So, I mean, we've already paid a fortune for it all.
Why not put some of these regulations to a vote instead of the EPA and all the rest of these administrative arms placing these regulations on us, taking more and redistributing more of our wealth or more of our money to pay for something that we're not even going to use or benefit from.
Basketball is back with YouTube TV.
Once again, I struggle with that type of argument where it's like, okay, where you're pushing responsibility to the next person, but
an eco-conscious lifestyle does not need to be expensive. There are incentives that are built into our policy that encourage people to live a more eco-conscious lifestyle. Because you have control over that. A lot of things we don't have control over, but you have control over how much you're buying at a grocery store and how much you're deciding to throw away. And minimize that, scale it back in all regard. In how far you're driving, in the water, in the electricity, in all the different sectors that impact climate change. So you have the decision to make of how much you're going to use, and there are direct cost savings with not being so wasteful.
I'm also an example of that. I drive an electric car, and it's not that hard in Los Angeles to get it charged. And in the future, it's going to be much easier for more and more people to have electric cars, especially as the cost of internal combustion engines keeps adding up. I spend a tremendous amount of time recycling plastic, recycling aluminum, and about every 6 months I go to the recycling yard myself, and it pays off very handsomely. Aluminum is extremely valuable. There's a lot of small choices and a lot of larger choices, and you can make those choices quite easily. I mean, our entire yard is now all drought-resistant plants.
That is your choice.
Yeah.
But what
Yes,
you are
exactly.
talking about is making choices for me.
No, you can choose to keep using water, but you're going to pay for it. You can choose to still have your green lawn. No one is coming around and saying you cannot do that, but you are going to pay for it.
Look, we can have a middle ground on this. There's a lot of people that believe in these things that are totally separate from the role of climate change. And a lot of these recycling and energy efficiency policies are very good. And I think most people would agree with them, and most of people are trying to adhere to them. I think what we're talking about, again, is the imposition, whether you force people to have drought-resistant lawns or you force people to have solar panels on their roof. I don't see any reason why people can't make choices like that on their own.
When it comes down to it, like those choices we make, what we buy, whatever we vote on, it doesn't have to be expensive. But what we're trying to do is prevent these costs from getting bigger long term. I mean, I think we just simply need to change some of our choices and be a little altruistic.
I worry about our future.
Yes, I definitely worry about our future. It's something I think about a lot because I watch and because I work with the data from climate science all over the country and all over the world. And I especially worry because I have 3 young sons, one of whom just has his birthday today. And I'm very worried that the planet they're going to inherit is already going to be much, much more difficult to live on than the one I inherited or one my parents gave to me.
The Constitution preamble, last part of it says, to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. I'm concerned about them having liberty, having the freedom. Some people think that we don't have the right to choose, how we should live. I mean, because you want to enforce your way of life on others.
I have 4 grandsons that I love more than life. I fear for their future that they are going to be living in a socialist country, because this is what this leads to. I don't have a voice in this state at all. I have no voice.
I worry about the future because I have 4 nieces, a nephew, and I'd like to have a family of my own someday and have kids. And so I think about the future and how degraded the environment could be, or how the amount of CO2 we're putting into the air and greenhouse gases increases. But I'm hopeful because I found that there are people living in way worse conditions than I am, and they're full of hope because they understand that they have choices, that they can work hard to make a better life for themselves. I don't know about you guys, but at least for me, I'm gonna make choices that improve the environment, improve public health, and leave this place better for the future generations. Hi, Natalie.
Hi, everyone.
Natalie, why is she?
I'm not in fear. I have made the choice to not have children, and I honor that decision, and we all have that choice. And I don't operate from a place of fear. A big question that I don't know if we've addressed today or if we ever will address is who takes responsibility for the impact that we're having, because we know that we have an impact. So I just believe in using our purchasing power, our political power through our vote, through supporting policies that are going to create healthier communities, and basically doing the best that we can so that we can continue to enjoy our environment now and for future generations.
Hey, everybody.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Professor.
Very interesting
Thank
to
you,
hear
sir.
from you.
Very nice.
All right.
Nice meeting you.
Thank
Nice
you.
meeting you.
Mother Nature, all right.
Nice meeting you.
Hey everybody, thank you for watching another episode of Middle Ground. My name is Erin and this is Dan, and we are both Jubilee directors.
I think, we obviously have our own beliefs that we carry through our own lives. And then when you are directing an episode of Middle Ground, what's interesting is when you start reaching out to cast members to be in the episode, and you start talking from people who you actually disagree with. I wouldn't say it makes you agree with them always, but you do empathize and listen a lot more. You can't just dismiss it completely. You have to see the human being coming with that opinion.
If we ever will address is who takes responsibility for the impact that we're having, because we know that we have an impact. So I just believe in using our purchasing power, our political power through our vote, through supporting policies that are going to create healthier communities, and basically doing the best that we can so that we can continue to enjoy our environment.
Okay. I wanted to end on that one because I think that's the big deceit on this whole thing. I think one panders to that side, but I don't think it's founded in good faith. And I do think these people are buying into it and paying for it. And maybe that's you. Maybe I'm talking to you. And I do think that's the major discrepancy that we have with this is because I do think one side likes to talk about it without like getting the full repercussions, like the full, like the full deal. Like everybody's just like, everybody should be driving an electric vehicle. And I mean, it's like some people were building value in themselves with their ability to drive an electric car. And it's like, hold on one second. The energy that it costs to make that one car is about worth of 7 years of a fossil fuel vehicle. So the amount of input and whatnot. So I just, you drive it past 7 years, you're netting better, but it's just like, come on, can we really demonize? Like, it's just not to mention we got a slave trade of miners in Africa that is involved in every single battery of ours, you know, and we still just use this stuff. It's horrible. Like we're propagating all this stuff, and we don't talk about that. So it's just like you can hear my humanitarian side. With that being said, I thought that was a pretty good debate. I thought it was fair on both sides. Maybe we'd like to have another one of those in the future. With that being said, maybe I earned your subscription. Maybe they earned your subscription. Maybe somebody earned a like, and maybe lay down a comment on what I should watch in the future. I appreciate each and every one of you, even when you're hating on me, which, you know, I totally get too. So with that being said, maybe I'll catch you in the next video.